national lab facility. It's available to anyone that's interested in conducting an investigation in space. They were initially funded by DARPA with the goal of having a test bed that could be used to conduct research of satellite formation flight, rendezvous, docking, and it has since then grown to include many other experiments. We have all the posters out there are technologies that have been in collaboration with Google right next door to us. They've taken the Project Tango phone and it's been attached to the spheres. Several years ago, we started with the simple Nexus phone. The spheres were designed and delivered over a decade ago. How many of you have a computer at home that's over a decade old? None of them. Yeah? It still runs Windows pretty strong.
It's Apple.
Right? Hold the door open? So technology and make this the brain of the spheres, right? So now we can have a smartphone drive the spheres and control the spheres. There's other research being conducted, still funded by DARPA. And you'll see some posters out there about birds.
Yes.
Rings.
Two large electromagnets move around the ISS by attracting instead of using the built-in CO2 thrusters. Additionally, rings are able to wirelessly transfer power between each other. The sphere's docking port will allow two spheres to rigidly attach to each other autonomously. The lance of one port goes into the hole on the other side, and the mechanism closes to rigidly lock the lance in place.
So all of these technologies are in support of future exploration missions, right? All of them are required. But aside from these technologies, we also have an incredible outreach program. It is a programming challenge for middle school and high school students. Middle school in the summer and high school in the fall. And for the high school students, the finalists, the teams that make it to the finals get invited to MIT. And we conduct the final competition with the crew aboard the ISS live supporting it. So that's pretty cool. All right, so we're going to move on now to
sound is how it really calculates. So what happens is he puts off an infrared light, just like your TV remote. Nobody can see it, but all the beacons say, okay, he wants to know where he's at. We've all started our counters at the exact same time. And after such and such time, it's his turn to sound off, and he says, okay, I'm waiting for that signal. I saw the lightning. He counts, and he says, okay, I think I'm pretty close to him. And I go to the next one, I think I'm pretty far from him. And with that, he can get himself within about a centimeter's resolution about where he knows where he's at. Once you know where you're at, well, then you can start doing things. It's no different than humans. We can't operate if we close our eyes. We need to make sure that we know what our surroundings is doing. So depending on the mission or what the experiment is that day, they have to know where each other are. Sometimes they do inspection routines. Sometimes they're looking to dock to another vehicle. So the really neat thing about spheres is, even though it's kind of older technology, it takes a really long time to get things on station. A lot of people they ask, I think I noticed a couple of you were looking at the laptops, right? T61Ps, I'm pretty sure no one's seen one of those for about 5 or 10 years. The thing is, it costs millions and millions of dollars to get something certified to get on ISS because there's so many intricate little things there. For example, there's no convection in space. So what convection is hot air balloon. If I have hot air, it expands, and the cold air comes beneath and pushes it up. There's no convection space, so when I have a processor that's getting hot, that hot air doesn't rise and cold air comes in, it sits there. So now all of a sudden it's running hot, so someone has to sit there and investigate and say, is that fan in there sufficient? Do we have to add a fan? Do we have to modify things? And that's just one of 100 little variables. And that's why you can't just go down to Best Buy and say, here's the new model, let's throw it up. It's probably not going to work because no one's looked at it, or the configuration's changed, or it's too hot in this one area now. So even though it's taken a lot of years to get a payload up there, this one has an expansion port. They had the foresight to realize that other things may want to utilize some of its sensors or potential. And that's why all these posters are out there. This is some of our more popular payloads that we've operated on. Like Andres said, that we've hijacked the brain with a cell phone. We've given it eyes with vertigo and a couple of cell phone experiments as well. And recently we did one called Slosh, where we use the spheres as tugboats and we use their sensors to get this little pill of fluid to see that what is it doing in space. So we use them, we kind of use the tugboats, we gun it, and then we slam on the brakes, and then we watch that fluid. We film them in high def, and then we send the data back down. So that allows us to model the fluid, because if we go to Mars and we take tons of water with us, or rocket fuel, or any other kind of fluids, we need to know how the physics behave. So that's everything we do at NASA is little baby steps towards other research. So when we do spheres, everyone always asks, what does it do? And it's a really challenging question to ask, because it does more things than it doesn't do. It depends on what the scientists want it to do. When they come in, they work with us. A lot of the payloads aren't here right now because they're at their vendors, they're at the other universities, they're at MIT. We rotate equipment, they come in, they do experiments here when they need to use this facility. We have a similar facility down range that is a couple doors over. It's all kinds of fun. Like, we did an experiment where the astronauts one of us was controlling on the ground, because that's one of the things we're looking at. The big development in this building is how do we control robots and interface with them over remote distances. There's a 20-minute delay to Mars. So if I'm driving, do I want to go 10 feet, wait for the signal, confirm, go 10 feet, wait? Or do we want to implement some sort of autonomy that says, oh, I think you guys can go without me for the next 20 minutes and make the right judgment of where to go? And so little experiments like that are based off experiments that we do on spheres. So there's a lot of overlap. I think it takes a while to comprehend that so much science is not just defining experiment A, experiment B. It's everything helps everything. We publish all of our stuff. We give accessibility to everyone in this building. So we get a lot of interesting science out of these guys. Do you have any questions? All right, let's watch things float. It's really fun because this is, no matter how much you teach someone physics or talk about old classic Newtonian physics, things that rest out, etc. It's really neat because this is equivalently, the spheres is about 10 pounds. It's a bowling ball. Our base is about 17 or 18 pounds, so it's about 30 pounds. And something that you can describe all day long, but until you physically get to push it around, it's a neat experience. The interesting thing about this table, though, is I've got to clean it. You guys snuck up on me. I didn't know we were having you. Is every experiment we have to clean this table very well, because we're riding on about a 50th of a human hair, if I remember correctly. That gap that we see down here, we can't see. So when there's an eyelash on the table, a piece of dirt, piece of dust, the doors are open, we had to raise our ceiling for our experiment, and so, of course, we get drafted and everything. What happens, you'll see one leg will get caught up and will kind of twist. It gets caught up on a speed bump of dirt. So we have to clean this meticulously every time we do an experiment, every day. But it's really neat. So when we just recently built our air carriages to a newer design. It allows the feet to snug in, like that model. So if we're doing an experiment where they need to dock or get close proximity, we tuck the feet in. But if we're doing something where we want a little more stability, or something heavier, or something cantilevered like the goggles, or something where it wants to lean forward a little, we spread the feet out. But the old model, it was hilarious because it had one giant air bearing, and all the scientists kept saying, something's wrong, it keeps going that way, the table's wrong. We haven't had it certified in years to look at it, I think it might have shifted. And we had this crew come out, and the guy who installed it like 25 years ago was thrilled, because he was like, his first week on the job, he's like, I remember that. Is it polka dotted with a black and white and a dot in the middle? And I was like, in 25 years, you remember the dot in the middle? He said, oh, that was my first one. He was thrilled. He came up from LA with his team. They cleaned it, they repolished it, they certified it, and sure enough, there's a tilt to it. But I didn't tell the engineers, because the minute you tell them, psychology will dictate it keeps going that way. So they said, is it tilted? I said, yep, it's tilted. They said, which way? I said, not going to tell you. And so they kept it, they swear it was that way. And it turns out they were partially right. From here to there, 10 feet, the difference in the height is half a sheet of thickness of paper. Right? So that's almost immeasurable. As long as the spheres moves faster than it can drift, you're okay. So the control loop has to communicate to itself faster than any sort of air that's introduced. So it's pretty much nothing. The thing is, the fact of the matter is, depending on the tides, depending where the moon is, micro earthquakes, temperature,